I haven't not recorded one of the components yet, but that's the next fuck up to happen. Like there's only so many mistakes I can make before the big one.
Yeah.
Like last episode was like a little bit out of focus. Like the one before that, I got this new, which is great, but I didn't record it in multi-track. So I had both of us in one track, which was annoying.
Yeah.
Normally I'm pretty relaxed about microphone because I know it's gonna be multi-track, so I can like mix us later. And that one, it was like, oh fuck, dude, I can't like.
I gotta deal with what we got now.
I had to do some of it manually, which sucked. Like going. I'll go back and edit kind of as we talk anyway.
Yeah.
But it was so annoying to go and like up 2 decibels, down 2 decibels, up 2 decibels. So over the course of like an hour. And by the end, it's like,
God.
I'll get the worst of it, but some of it's just going to be what it is.
Yeah.
But we here, episode 23 of Something From Everyone. It's
23.
23, dude. It's our Jordan episode. So,
Let's go. I like that.
It's a big one.
That's a
big
good
one. I forgot
energy.
my jersey today. But I'm here with Jake Miller from NEHS, and my man. Thank you for coming through. How we living?
Of course, I'm doing good, staying busy, getting shit done.
Dude, staying busy, looking good, dude. Just here last weekend helping out with something that I should not be bringing up. But I like to flirt with danger. That's the fun part of the show.
Give them a little tease at it, but they don't need to know what.
Hell yeah, dude. I don't even know what at this point. That's the fun part of what we were talking about before. We're also trying to figure out what. Hell yeah, man, dude. Starting off here, I wanted to get right into the Omen music video. So you're playing guitar in NEHS and recently joined the band in the last couple months. Talk to me about the first music video. So you've filmed music videos before. Is this like a first time in a while kind of thing?
I've filmed music videos before, but it hasn't been since before COVID. You know, I've been kind of in my own little world since COVID was going on. So it was nice to get back to doing stuff with other people, you know?
Yeah.
It was a really fun time. We had a game plan for it, and then we changed it a little bit, and you know how that shit goes.
Yeah.
Everything changes.
Where did you guys film it?
We went up to this spot in Mass. It was just like a studio up there. It came with all kinds of different lights and stuff.
Hell yeah.
It was actually funny. Some guy that I went to high school with was the like studio engineer that just works there.
That's cool.
And so he comes in and I'm looking at him. I'm like, we're like an hour and a half away from home. Why are you the guy that's here?
Yeah.
So that was kind of funny, but yeah.
Damn,
it was a good time.
It's strange how often that happens in this. Like we go to shows and there's so many people there, and it's crazy how many of them like you forget that you crossed paths with.
Yeah,
at some point in time. You mentioned that the treatment started somewhere and then kind of ended up somewhere. So I guess I'll start with in the video you guys are performing in like a black room, and there's a narrative of our gorgeous model Sean Vogel. Shout out to the cutest man on earth.
Beautiful man.
Dude. That video he was distractingly gorgeous in that video. No, but
you forgot there was a song playing. He was so cute.
He's the best. But yeah, so it's a storyline. It looks like him, I'm assuming, meeting death. It's kind of like a black character figure.
Yeah.
What was the idea there?
So the song is kind of about like anxieties and stuff. So it was kind of a manifestation of anxiety in a very deathy, Grim Reaper looking horror context. We were originally going to have that kind of angle of it be a little more involved, but as we're shooting it, you know, you kind of look at stuff and it's like, this is working, this isn't, let's do more of this, let's do more of that. So we still had a decent amount of it in there, but I was actually death. I was the guy under the cloak.
You were the man, dude. Is that a representation of a persona or just a character you chose to play?
That was just someone needed to do it, and I was the tallest one in the room. They were like, we need someone tall and gaunt to point. And I was like, yeah, I can do that.
I figured it was you or Sam. I couldn't figure out which one. I couldn't narrow it down. Hell yeah, dude. Had you done like acting before? Or was that your first? I mean, it's acting is generous, but
nothing like too seriously. I went to a performing arts high school, so there was like a little bit of a acting kind of elective class. It wasn't obviously what I went for, but I had little forays into that in the past.
Were you mostly into music?
Yeah, I was there for music stuff. So
gotcha.
They just made us do like one random other elective a year. One year it was that. One year it was like video editing.
Hell yeah.
I didn't do anything in that class. I just fucked off. So
that's what I did in guitar class. Give me one sec. I'm going to pause and move this fan a little bit closer because I can't feel it and it's driving me nuts. And then we'll come back. We're back from the formal pause. Oh, I can pause the recording on this thing, and I should have. I haven't done it yet, but it's one of those buttons that I'm like excited to push at some point in time.
You had the perfect opportunity.
Dude, that was it. Yeah, I'll just cut it out in post. But the more fun way to do it would be to push the button. You mentioned, I took guitar class. I always forget I took guitar class in high school, and it was great because it taught me that like we basically were just online teaching ourselves guitar. Like it was just like a classroom with a guy who kind of said he knew guitar, and then 20 kids on computers teaching themselves guitar with headphones plugged in.
Yep.
And like, I don't know if class taught me anything, but it gave me an hour a day to sit at a computer and learn something. And so I think I learned enough guitar to like, I can't play guitar, but I have 6 months of high school experience playing guitar.
You go up, the note gets higher. You go down, the note gets lower.
Yeah, and I have some general, and I think that's helpful for me when I'm on set with guitars, so I can kind of communicate with you, and I have some sense of what you're going through and what's going on there.
Yeah.
I also think it was great because it gave me an hour a day to sit down and learn something on a computer and appreciate how much that grows over time. So I signed up for the class as like it's a fucking elective, whatever. Yeah, just put me in something, coach.
Yeah.
And I heard it was easy. You got to teach yourself. Great. That sounds good to me. And then getting there, I was like, oh, I can teach myself a lot of stuff if I just sit at the computer for an hour a day.
Literally.
And I think maybe that was the best part that I took of the class was that I think is now, kind of enabled a lot of this other growth. In your music high school, was it music high school?
Yeah. It wasn't
Performing
just music.
arts?
It was performing arts generally, but I was just doing music there.
Gotcha. And what is that, like a traditional music or was it guitar?
It was guitar. They made us go through some like vocal training too, theory, all that kind of stuff. But I was mainly there for like jazz guitar stuff.
Interesting. Was that how did you end up there? Like that feels like a unique high school experience.
So it's very similar to what you were just saying. I was in a public high school guitar class, 20, 25 kids on a computer and just some guy that kind of plays guitar overseeing everything. And he could kind of tell really early on that I wasn't going to get anything out of that class, that I was kind of already ahead of where that class was. So he actually recommended to me that I go to a different school for it. He was like, if this is something you're really passionate about, something you really want to pursue in life, go somewhere where they're going to cultivate that as opposed to going on ultimate guitar at school instead of home. You know what I mean? So he kind of pushed me to go in that direction.
That's sick.
And so my freshman year, I didn't go there, but sophomore and on, I went out to there.
Hell yeah.
Because of his recommendation. And his name was Mr. Crowley. So shout out Mr. Crowley.
Shout out, dude. Hell yeah, dude. That's so sick. I like hearing about those people, and I think it's important to remember that like we can be that person in someone else's life. Of like, that we at 20 whatever years old quite have that luxury yet. But it's kind of fun to look at like, I don't know, you meet a 7-year-old, like my little cousins are 6 and 7. It's like, what can I do for them that can be that doorway? And of course,
for whatever they want too. It could not be music at all, but you know, maybe they see me in a music video and then they think I could make music videos and then do that as anything like that, you know?
Yeah, I think it's cool. A cool thing to pass on, a cool thing to kind of highlight when we were given that, because I don't know, I feel like I always forget those times that I was also given those things. Hell yeah, dude. In the Omen video, going back to square one before I got derailed in the high school story. But hell yeah. So talk to me about like performing the video. As I was like thinking about it, I realized that I've never actually asked a band like, what is it like on set from your perspective? Like I've spent obviously set perspective many times from the director's chair or running around being a director and worrying about too many things and addressing too many details. But yeah, what is the day like when you're playing the song 10 times over and over, and by the 10th time when you don't want to move, don't want to hear the song, and don't want to play anymore?
It's interesting doing that, and you're so used to playing it and hearing like every mistake or everything you do right, and then you're just doing it, it doesn't even matter what you're playing essentially at that point, so it's just kind of like whatever. One of the takes we ended up using, I dropped my pick. I didn't even have it in my hand. I just kept making the motion because it was on Lucas. It wasn't my shot, so I was like, whatever. Like, I'm gonna just headbang and pretend I'm picking.
That's the expert move. Yeah, it's always, that's always kind of like the veteran thing on set versus the beginner on set. Like,
everyone stop! I dropped my pick.
Yeah.
For the guitar, I'm not really playing right now.
That isn't even plugged in. It's interesting. Is it harder to play when you can't hear? Is it harder to play when you can't hear the feedback? Does it feel weird? I never thought of it that way. It's
harder to play, but it's not necessarily harder to play, but it's like you don't know if you're doing it right. Like I could be playing a completely different fret than what I am, because I'm not even looking at the guitar really. You know, I'm headbanging, I'm focused on that, you know. So I could be 5 frets up from where I'm supposed to be, and I wouldn't even know. If I can hear myself, I'd hear it's that high up, and I'd be like, oh shit, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. And especially for that, because I had just learned that song. I mean, we shot that very quickly after I joined the band, so like I was trying to figure out how to play it still. So
hell yeah. Talk to me about like the 5th take and the 10th take versus the first take. So the first take is comfortable. It's kind of like band practice, and you're still kind of warming up. Like we've all played that first take a bunch of times, and normally in band practice you then go on and play 5 other songs or whatever the number is, a couple other songs. talk to me about playing that same song 5 times over, 10 times over, and yeah, when your back and neck are saying, please don't perform anymore.
Yeah. I think the first time, it's very much about getting comfortable with the idea of it's more the performance than the actual playing. So the first couple times you're kind of getting used to that and getting in the mindset. And then by like the 5th or 6th time, I think that's the sweet spot usually. Because then you're comfortable enough with what's going on, but you're also not super tired. You get to 10 or 11 and you're phoning it in. You know what I mean? You're always just sitting there like, all right, let's do this.
It's so tough as a director because it's like, I always equate the first to like everything in my brain has a sports analogy, and to me the first couple is warming up. It's like in every sports game you have to go out for a half an hour warm up, and unfortunately the only way to warm up for a music video is to do this whole dance that feels excessive to call a warm up, but it's like no, that's kind of how we got to get into the rhythm and get up to speed for this.
Definitely.
It's interesting for me is like when we get to take 5 or 6, and it's like I know we're getting to that point where we're gonna start declining. It's like when do I start cutting stuff? It's always a risk, right? Because it's like if I gamble for the 10th take and it's the one we wanted, then perfect, mission accomplished. But if I gamble and it's phoned in and they're tired and then we have something to do afterwards, then I've ruined that. And it's always this really fine. And it's also I don't want to be like, yo, how shot are you? Because everyone wants to be confident, say I'm doing great. And also, if you're not doing great, like I don't want to bring that up. I want it to be like, awesome, guys, come on, give me one more and just like live in that world.
Positive reinforcement, not like, you're looking a little tired, my guy.
Yeah. And it's a really fine dance trying to figure out, like, where is that diminishing return point? Because it is there.
Yeah, definitely.
And, I don't know if people can always see it in the video, but it's pretty obvious in real life and when you're watching.
I think usually that stuff gets taken out in the edit. You know what I mean? I think you and Ian did our video. I think you and Ian are the only ones I've worked with. I was going to name off other people, but you're the only people I've worked with for videos. Yeah. So both of you, I think you kind of pull out you're good at recognizing what the good takes are and what the bad takes are. You know?
I like to think of it as like sculpting almost. It's like I start with like this big physical rock, and it's about just cutting off all the pieces of the rock that are bad, and then eventually left this cool piece of rock.
Nah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
But yeah, in my brain of analogies, where somehow everything needs to have some tie to something I can't do.
That's funny. I like the rock one though, because I'm sure it feels like a fucking boulder when you've got, probably by the end of it, 5-6 hours of footage, probably more sometimes. And you're just going through every second, like, nope, not that.
I've recently gotten better about being like firm with watching everything back. In the beginning, it's very easy to just be like, ooh, we're excited, get in, pull the fun stuff, and find what you need.
Yeah.
As you get going, it's like, no, I really should watch everything back and be aware of all of this. But of course, I end up sitting there watching the same song back 10 times from 10 different angles, and only half of them are watchable because the other half of the take is me figuring stuff out.
Yeah.
It's a process. But I guess it's kind of similar to the studio of sitting there and listening to the same song over and over, and figuring out how this chorus gets this bridge and being stuck with these 2 parts that you can't figure out the bridge for.
Do I want to change this note 1/16th note later, 1/16th note earlier? All kinds of excessive honing into stuff.
I know you're a big writer. So for me with video editing, there's like a comfort almost of like we shot it and there's nothing I can do. With video or with audio production, it's like, you can always go back in and plug in the note. Like there is a lot more flexibility there.
Yeah.
How do you I know you're a big writer. Are you still writing personally? And then, how are you solving that problem when you run into it?
So for me, it doesn't always work out this way, but I like to have all the writing done before I go to the studio. I like to have a finished song that I've sat with painstakingly for 18 hours of my own time or whatever. And then when I go into the studio, it can really be about having fun with it and kind of experimenting. Like I have the parts written out right here. It's supposed to be like this. But then, you're sitting there with whoever you're recording. And it's like, well, maybe I do this instead. Maybe I do that instead. And that's kind of my way of freshening it up and keeping it from getting stale when you're doing that. Because it's easy for a song you've listened to a million times, you to just not give a shit. But then you're phoning it in. Same as the music video. You don't care. You're just going to play the notes, and it's like, all right, whatever. So I like to keep it fun.
And now as you're keeping it fun, are you in the writing process, involved in the writing process now with NEHS?
Yeah. So I'm recording all the guitar on the new stuff. So even the songs that I haven't personally written, I'll do that same thing I was talking about where they have a finished song, they have it this way, and then we'll sit there and, I'll look back at Sam or Lucas or whoever wrote it and be like, what if I did this? Do you like this? Do you like that? Lots of stuff with like some of the crazier licks we put in stuff. There's a lot of room to kind of move around. It doesn't really matter what notes you're playing as long as they're fast and fun. So I'm just like, all right, what about this instead?
Hell yeah, that's right up your alley. And that kind of is interesting to look back at the jazz guitar perspective in high school. It's like that's exactly where that goes. That is a jazz guitar, or at least in my uneducated opinion, that's exactly what jazz guitar is notes that don't quite make sense but sound cool.
Yeah, that sounds cool together, yeah. And a lot of that, I think, actually helped with that, too, because there's a lot of improvisation that I learned in that. And, you know, that helps when you're trying to have fun and come up with stuff in the studio. It could be easy if I didn't have that background to play the same lick every time that I just know, but I have more of a background in improvisation. I can kind of sit there for a second and be like, all right, well, let me do this completely different.
That's interesting.
And so that definitely helps, yeah.
That's interesting. I feel like there's a lot of, I'm sure you've also done a lot of self-teaching, but it's interesting to have like the formal side to go with that and at least be aware of that world.
Yeah.
Does it help in other places? You mentioned the vocal training. Like I assume that helps find melodies. Like are there other places that you feel like the formal training benefits you?
So the vocal training was actually super crucial. They would have us do stuff like play a note on a piano, and then you have to sing a fifth above it. You have to sing an octave above it. You just have to figure out where it is, and they would really stay with you for like 10 minutes till you figured it out. So doing all that has really helped my ear. So I'm pretty quick with, if I have an idea in my head, just transferring it to the guitar. Or if I hear something and I really want to incorporate it in my writing, I can just kind of listen to it 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, okay, I know what's going on there. I know how I can do that, how I can kind of switch it up, but keep it similar.
That's an interesting thing, that it's not just about how can you play the thing, it's can you get it from your brain to your hands. And that's a very weird thing that I think is easier for me with a camera, where it's like in my head and the camera, it kind of looks the same, but the sound in your head and the sound of the guitar is never quite going to line up. Like you have to also imagine the post-processing, and I don't know, it seems like a much more complex stretch to imagine how to do that.
Definitely. It definitely takes a lot of time, and it's something that I'm not like perfect with, you know what I mean? There's still times where it doesn't translate perfectly, and I'm like, fuck, how do I get this? But I'm pretty good. I've worked on it a lot, so.
Interesting. And to that note, with learning the NEHS stuff, you mentioned that Omen is one of the songs that you had to learn pretty quickly ahead of the shoot. Talk to me about that learning process. Yeah, how much time do you have between getting the song and then going to shoot the video?
So the video, I had a decent amount of time. I probably got the song in like January or so.
Okay.
And then we went and shot it in March, early March. So I probably had about 2 months, but it wasn't like learn this song for the music video. Right after we did the music video, we went and did a little run of shows. So it wasn't like learn Omen for the music video. It was learn 6 songs and then one of them's going to be a music video, you know? So it was a little daunting to have, you know, a full set of stuff to learn real quickly. But I think the NEHS stuff is really, it's up my alley, you know. It's kind of the stuff that I'm good at. So I think my strengths and weaknesses played into learning that stuff quickly fairly well.
Hell yeah. Where did Omen rank in like the difficulty of songs? Like was there one that stood out as like this one was a nightmare to learn, or I assume some of them I mentioned kind of fit in.
So the thing about Omen that's difficult is it's kind of an 8-string song. There's a section that drops down to the lower strings, but most of it is on the 7-string.
Okay.
So in the music video, I'm using an 8-string, and I was originally going to play it on an 8-string, but I don't play 8-string. I play 7-string usually.
Okay.
So I was just fumbling around on the 8-string trying to get used to it. And when we actually went to play shows, I said, fuck this. I'm going to use a pitch shifter pedal to just go down on my 7-string. Like, I don't want to fuck with the 8-string. So that was... yeah, that was it was difficult for that reason, but the actual performance of it isn't the hardest of all of them. Memento Vivere was definitely the hardest to get down. I'm playing leads like the whole time in that song.
On the note of the pitch shifter, is that difficult then to choreograph with the rest of the band? Because I assume if you are not going to 8-string, I assume everyone else is changing. Like is Sam changing instruments?
So Sam actually, because it's such a low note on the 8-string, we do same octave bass when we drop down.
Okay.
So Sam actually goes higher. So he just has to move up a string on his guitar and play the breakdown there.
Okay.
And I would go down so we're in the same octave instead of the kind of different range.
This is totally new to me. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. When it gets really low, sometimes bass gets really muddy. So you just kind of put them in the same octave and go with it. So he just goes up a string and does that. I pitch shift down. It was a little difficult kind of getting used to it at first, especially because I decided to do it that way maybe a day or 2 before our first show playing.
As you do, yeah.
Yeah. And so I hadn't thought about all the consequences of it. And like in the breakdown, when I'm pitch shift down, there's like your panic chord has to have like, wah, 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 you know, that kind of a thing. and I have to change the position of that from where I had been playing it because
Gotcha.
the whole guitar is pitch shift. It's not just the low string. And so I remember being up there our first show, and I hadn't thought about it at all until the breakdown starts. And I'm like, I have 5 seconds to figure out where I need to switch this to, like right now. I think I fucked it up that time, but then I knew, before the next show, I was like, all right, well, let's figure out where this goes.
Damn, that's nuts. Yeah, I like that moment of 5 seconds. You have to play one thing and think about what the next math is going to be.
Yeah,
You're quickly
I was like,
counting, half steps and full steps, doing the math.
Yeah, ridiculous.
All the stuff. Interesting. What was you went to Memento? I actually filmed a playthrough for that song, so I'm very familiar with how intricate and gnarly that is. Is it the leads mostly that make that just so intimidating?
So it's not even that the leads are so hard. It's that Dale wrote so much of that on the G string, which is notoriously bad at staying in tune.
Gotcha.
So it's like I'm always terrified halfway through the song playing so much on it, it's going to go a little bit down or something, and it's a whole disaster. But I'm actually, because it was the one that was kind of the most daunting, I'm probably the best at playing it live because that was the one I practiced the most, Everything else, I was like, all right, I kind of got that. And then you get on stage and you're like, oh, wait, what about this? That one, I knew everything I was going to do solidly before we were even close to going out to play it.
Hell yeah. What does practice look like for you? I mean, is it sitting down just with the song, instrumental, with vocals? Is it to a click? Is it half speed? What is learning look like?
So usually when I'm learning something and I don't have any kind of pre-knowledge about it or anything, I'll go on YouTube, half speed the song, figure it out note by note, and then once you got it, you push it to full speed, you try it full speed. Sometimes you're not quite there yet. Take a metronome out, do it 10 BPM lower than it is or something, whatever you got to do it. It's hard sometimes to really sit there, and sometimes it takes like 6, 7, 8 hours of really just sitting there to get something, but you just push through, you got to do it.
Yeah. It's a very strange process to me because it's I don't have to, I don't know, I guess for video sometimes I have to learn a new skill to make the video happen. I guess I do that sometimes, but it's different to learn a song that someone else has played. It's like you have to learn this pre-existing thing instead of, I always have an element of creativity and ability to like change the idea to fit what I want to do along the way, and to be kind of forced into a more rigid thing must be a challenge to take on.
I did some of that too. There was some parts that I just said to the guys, I was like, I'm going to do this instead. On Evergreen, I completely rewrote the solo. There's some ideas in it that are very similar to what Dale had, but when we were going out that first time, I was just like, nothing we're playing is mine. I want some piece of this that is my creativity to put out every night. And so I was just like, I'm just going to redo the solo, and y'all are going to have to deal with that. They liked the solo, so it went well, but I was like, this is what's going on.
Hell yeah, they're all flexible homies. But talk to me about that first run out with them. So you just joined the band, you're just learning the songs, and how many shows you played?
I'd never played out of Connecticut before either, and all of them were out of Connecticut.
Hell yeah. How many days? Where are we going?
It was like 3 days. We went to, I think it was 2 Pennsylvania shows and a Virginia show.
Hell yeah.
So, we went down there. I think it was really good for me because the first show it went really well, so it got my confidence up, but it wasn't a crazy big show. There wasn't like a million people to get my nerves up beforehand, It was a very good kind of first show with the guys. And then the second one we played was a little bit bigger, and we did really well. So it kind of showed me the heights of what we can do. And then the third show was like nobody, and we didn't play that well. And so that was kind of the lows of it. So I got a little bit of everything going on that first run.
Interesting. Also, first time playing from the van every night. And I think that just complicates everything or changes everything, where it's mostly good stuff to be with the boys, but it is also different than waking up in your own bed, and whatever your normal show day routine is now completely out the window, and you're waking up at a Walmart parking lot to figure out how to get to 6 hours.
Where am I going to brush my teeth?
Yeah.
What am I going to eat?
I believe I saw you guys just like fixed up the van and just did some renovations there. What was the van life like before the renovations when you're first time?
I'm a lucky motherfucker. I will say that. These guys have been doing it in this van for forever with just bare back in the back of the van, do what you got to do.
Yeah.
The first run we went on, they installed bunks right before it. So we got mattresses and everything in there. It's kind of nice right now. I ain't even going to hate on it. But most of the stuff we just did, when we got off that run, there were some problems with it. The engine was I think something was misfiring. So we paid for it to get some work done. AC's fixed now, which will be great next week because it's fucking hot out. We put up like blinds on the windows so that we won't have kind of sun coming in or people looking in or anything while we're trying to sleep or anything. So that'll be good. And yeah, cleaned it up a little bit. Lucas just gave it a wash the other day. She looking pretty right now.
King, dude. Does she have a name too?
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Her name is Harrison Ford.
Yeah, her name is Harrison Ford. Just let it rock.
All right. Hey, man. Hey, whatever you want to do, you want to do. That's a great segue right into the show. So, yeah, talk to me. You got a run coming up. Is it this upcoming weekend?
Or we
10 days
leave
from now?
on Thursday, and we're playing, I think it's like 6 or 7 shows.
Hell yeah.
We're going to be out until the 7th, and then we have a show on the 9th too, but I got to work on the 8th, so I'm going home and going back out for that.
Nice.
Yeah, it's going to be a decent amount of shows. We're going out to Ohio, Pennsylvania, I believe, New Jersey, 2 New York shows, Albany and Brooklyn, Gardner, Mass. A lot of stuff.
Now, is this your longest run, or will it be your longest run of shows? What's exciting about it to you? What is, what about, of course, a lot of things are exciting, but yeah, what about it is exciting to you?
I'm just excited to be with the boys, honestly. You know, I don't even think about the length or like where we're going. It's just like I'm going to be with a group of people that I love, and I'm going to be figuring it out every day. You know, I love, even before I was doing band stuff, I love like road tripping with my friends and stuff. And so it's that kind of element is probably the most exciting for me. I'm excited to play in different places, you know, Ohio, that's kind of out there. I have an aunt out there actually who I haven't seen in forever, so she's gonna come to the show. I'm kind of excited to see her.
Yeah, it's also cool to get to you're not just flying out to see her. Your band is doing well enough that you're driving out.
Yeah.
Like, to here, and that's a cool way to. Like,
and she's a big
yourself to
metalhead too, so
that's
like
awesome.
she'll be into it and stuff. Her favorite band's like Lamb of God and stuff,
Oh,
so it's a
hell
little different. She's a little older, obviously, but you know she'll enjoy it. It'll be a good time.
Is your whole family like musically oriented?
Not really. My dad is really into metal. You know, he grew up on Metallica, Iron Maiden, stuff like that. But he really, I mean, he bought himself a guitar after I started learning, and he played for like a week and was like, yeah, fuck this shit, take this guitar. So he's very musically oriented with his ears. He listens to a lot of stuff that's really interesting, but he doesn't really get any of it. He just, that shit sounds cool. I like it.
Yeah. So then where do you get into music? How old are you when you start? Is it guitar, I assume, that you start with?
So we have videos of me as like a 2-year-old with like fake guitar, like fake drum set, kitchen pots and pans playing a like Pantera or something.
Hell yeah.
I've always been into it. I actually, one of my first like conscious thoughts that I remember having was listening to, it was some song by Dream Theater and being like, what am I listening to right now? Like, this is wild. And so I've always kind of been into it. I actually wanted to be a drummer at first though. Drums were cool when you're a little kid. You want to bang on shit. Yeah. But I lived in a condo, so my dad was like, we're not doing the drum set. I'll get you a guitar, but we're not doing the drum set.
Hell yeah. And then you teach yourself from like what age?
So I probably started 10 or 11. I was in 5th grade. I remember that, but I don't remember how old you are in 5th grade. Pretty young.
Yeah.
I had a couple guitar lessons from like a family friend, but wasn't anything super serious. You know, it was like, here's how you play Enter Sandman. Here's like this Linkin Park song.
Enough to get you off the ground.
Enough to get me interested and be like, oh, like I can have fun with this. And then I had a couple different teachers who were just private teachers, but none of them really lasted too long. One of them was like a blues guy, and I wasn't really interested in blues. So, you know, he'd be trying to teach me the pentatonic scale, and I'd be like, what about this Bullet for My Valentine song? And he'd be like, who? So that kind of didn't work, and he sent me to this other guy who was more of like a 80s shredder type. He taught me a lot about like scales and stuff like that, but I think I was a little too young to be with him, you know? He was trying to teach me some stuff that I was not grasping yet. A lot of self-taught stuff in between, you know, learning periphery songs on Ultimate Guitar, learning this, learning that, and then the music school. And yeah, so I've had a fair amount of actual teaching. Yeah. But
I mean, all the learning happens at home, I feel like.
Yeah. They hand you the paper, and then you got to go figure it out on your own, pretty much.
But it's nice to have someone to keep you on track, to keep you accountable for it all, I think.
Yeah. I don't know if they did very well because I was pretty bad at doing the stuff. They'd be like, all right, practice this. And I'd be like, I'm just going to go play Avenged Sevenfold for 10 hours today. Like,
so for me, I don't feel like I've heard a lot of good things about like photo and video school. And I'm completely self-taught. I went to school for psychology. And somewhere along the way it was like, I don't necessarily dislike this, but it just doesn't feel quite fulfilling yet. And I worked at a school for a little bit. I worked at school for kids with autism. I loved it there. I felt very fulfilled, but it was also like, I'm 20 whatever years old and this is a lot of weight and just real world stuff to be taking on. And so I was like, maybe as an adult, but it just, it didn't feel right. So somewhere along the way there, I get into camera stuff and that kind of becomes what happens. And I never was interested in cameras in a time where formal education would have been accessible. I guess now I could if I really wanted to, but that's never going to happen. But I always wonder, like, how would it benefit if it would have benefited me? And I think what I hear from a lot of my peers is that I don't know if it would have. I think I hear a lot of like they learned how to like develop film and they learned a lot of like classic principles. I'll take one as well if you don't mind.
I got you.
My king. But yeah, I feel like I might have learned some basic principles and definitely how to develop film and all like the kind of core skills. But like I'm not convinced that it would have changed where I am now, or even that it would have benefited where I am now. I think a lot of the work that I have found has just been from being at the Webster and doing it enough times. To your point, talk to me about the schooling. Do you feel like it did transform you? Did it take you forward? Do you feel like you would have played Avenged Sevenfold anyway and ended up here anyway?
So I think the big thing about school is the environment more than the actual learning. I don't think, if you're not a very creative person and they teach you 20 different scales, you're not going to become creative. You're not going to just get that spark from teaching. You got to find that spark on your own. But I do think there is something to benefit from being in an environment where everyone there is trying to be the best they can be. I was surrounded by 20, 30 other guitarists that were playing better than me. And it was like, all right, I got to get good. Like,
and also spoke your language and made it cool to be a good guitar player. It fun to be around the lunch table talking about pentatonic scales.
As opposed to like a normal, if I went to a public school or something and you break out the guitar and everyone's like, oh, the guy with the guitar. You're at music school, everyone's got their guitar. Like, it fosters an environment that's really conducive to learning. But if you're not there for the learning, if you're not putting out the creativity, you get what you put in is essentially what I feel like I should sum it up as.
Did it, do you feel like it enhanced your creativity or did it diminish your creativity? So for me, it's like, I feel like if I had someone grading my work, it would, that person over my shoulder would kind of taint it for me. My creativity has always been writing metalcore. Before I went to that school, I was writing metalcore. When I was there, I was writing metalcore. Long after, I'm writing metalcore. So there was a certain level of separation. Like, they can grade my jazz thing that I did, but it's like, it doesn't really matter. That's not what I'm more worried about how I can take what I learned from doing that jazz thing and then, that's a cool chord. Let me put that in the metalcore thing. So it has helped me because it's taught me more things that I can use for my own application. But I never really cared about what they said about my stuff. You know what I mean? It's interesting. I guess what I think I'm hearing you say is that you're able to separate the like jazz work from your metal work. And for me, I think I would have felt like they were judging my creativity. And it's interesting that you were like, no, they're not judging my ability to create. They're judging my ability to create within these parameters. And that's not the parameters I'm interested in creating.
100%.
And it's interesting. Yeah, like I said, I would have taken it much more personally of like, dude, they're telling me I'm bad at video. And it's like, fuck you. Like, I would have been resentful and, just annoyed in that situation.
They were really good at that too. Like, I had this one teacher there, Doug Mayer, great jazz guitarist. And he was really receptive to kind of what I had to bring. I would come in with my 7-string every day. I wouldn't be playing on a 6-string hollow body like everyone else, And he would kind of take some time out to be like, okay, you've got an extra string. If you're playing this chord, you can play it there too, He kind of fostered, he got that that's what I was interested in. And so while he would grade me harshly and be like, your swing sucks, like this was really bad, then he would also give me 5 minutes at the end of class to show him a new Animals as Leaders song or something and kind of listen to what the kids are listening to. So it was a give and take with that.
It's funny that even in the music school, you still were kind of a black sheep. That I'm laughing at the image of everyone with their 6-string hollow body.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, nah, I'm good on that. I don't care about chords. I like power chords.
Yeah. I like being down low and fucking drop F.
Yeah.
They'd be like playing F chord. Everyone's like, bring. I'm like, yeah. It was fun. It gave me some good different things to do too. Like when we were, we would do like combo competitions, go around the country and perform against all the other jazz groups from other places. And there were some times that I would have ideas that never would have come from jazz. Like there was one song I remember doing. We went to the Berkeley College up in Boston. They're kind of, it's national, but there were some people from like Sweden or England or something. So kind of international competition. And we did one song where the rhythm was like 7-7-6-6-6, but it added up to like a 4-4 thing. But the jazz version is always playing it as the weird thing. But me being the metalhead was like, nah, bro, at the last rep, just hit him with the hit him with the thing, you know?
Yeah.
And we did that. And then there was a ballad where I was doing like tapped harmonic stuff instead of playing chords. And we won the competition, first place. And it's not all on me. We had some great other musicians, but I like to think the little different influences I could put in from my personal life helped to kind of help that out.
That's cool. I think it's cool because it also, I can't remember someone else in your chair mentioned that art school also helped them like learn how to take feedback. So it was also, you mentioned one of your teachers who told you something was bad or was both supportive and critical and in both healthy ways. And I thought that was an interesting piece of like, it makes it so much better in the studio when you come in with the song pre-written. And is it Wiseman that you're recording with?
I do the No I stuff with Wiseman. I do my solo stuff with Sean.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
When one of either Chris or Sean says, dude, that stinks. And I'm sure they never say that stinks, but they say, hey, what if we
do this instead? Blah,
blah, blah. Yeah. Where you're much better at that, where the more traditional stereotype of the artist is that you say, hey, what if? And they go, no, this is how it is. And that's an interesting piece there that you've gotten practiced both taking feedback and also in taking chances. I think it's the other piece of that, as you said in the art school or in the competition piece of like the metal influence coming in, is like, you got good at saying, hey, what if? And taking that chance, and you've got to play that out enough to get a sense of like what chances are worth taking. I'm sure you also did that at some point and handed in something, got a C- on it, and it's like
some chances aren't worth taking.
100%. Yeah, I think those are both really valuable experiences to have.
Yeah, I tried to do my senior recital as a piece that was in like some crazy time signature, but like I was the time signature guy, so the drummer and the bassist I had doing it were not like that up to how to do that. Went terrible. Went awful. So yeah, you take the chances you succeed on, you take some other ones that you don't succeed on, you know?
And that's gonna be so valuable then in the studio, on stage, when you're coming to bandmates, when you're putting stuff in the group chat and trying to figure out how do I make this thing the best it can be. And like I said, I think I still take stuff personally, and it sounds like you've gotten very good at being like, no, this is about this piece of art and it has nothing to do with me. It's totally removed.
I'm very not disconnected to my art. Like I care about it. I'm very close to it. It's very personal to me, but I'm also at a certain extent very disconnected. I kind of feel like I am not the writer. It's more the universe and the influences that have come into me speaking through me rather than me sitting there trying to force something into existence. So it's like, I'll write 100 songs. If you don't like 99 of them, one of them you'll like. It's everything's not for everyone. You can't get caught up on that.
I love the sentiment. There's a quote I have like hanging up on the wall over there that I always read as I'm like loading out gear. My gear kind of loads out from here up the stairs.
Yeah.
It's a page long thing, but the one line of it that always sticks in my head is like, it's not my job to determine how good it is. It's not your job to determine how good your art is. It's just your job to let it flow through you.
Yeah.
And everything else is someone else's problem. And I've always liked that. It's a comforting thing of like, I don't know what's good or not, and like especially not of my own stuff. Like even in the metal world,
even less so of my own stuff than other people's stuff.
100%, right? Like my favorite band is not the best band in the world. They are whatever weird combination of flavors work for me.
Yeah,
and that is totally removed from what people like. And then the next level of that is like, what I create is an even more refined creation of spices that is gonna not work for a lot of people. And it's been kind of freeing to be like, it's not my job to worry about that. My job is just to keep creating and throwing stuff out there and trusting that I'll arrive at something I'm proud of.
Trust in the process is everything. You know, you can show up every day and do what you got to do, and trust in the process. You know?
As you move ahead and you're working on NEHS and stuff, so now you are helping write full songs, you're helping write guitar parts. Is Lucas sending you drum parts and you're adding guitar stuff in? What's that like? What's that writing process now as you guys move forward?
So it's a very collaborative process we have going right now. We'd like to make it even more collaborative moving forward, but right now it's usually at least 2 people's hands on every song. It'll usually start with someone's idea. Lucas will send an idea, Sam will send an idea, I'll send an idea. And either, if Lucas sends it, I'll kind of take it in and put some touches on it. And it depends on the song. There'll be some times where it'll just be, I'll play this guitar lick different. There are some times where I'll be like, I'm taking out this section and adding this section, or it kind of differs depending on the song, but it's very collaborative, which is weird for me because I'm so used to doing the solo work. I'm doing everything myself. Mm-hmm. It's nice to have a point where everything's out of your hands and it's like, nah, I did the guitar work. Now I can let Lucas do the drums. I can let Sam do the bass. I can let Caleb do the vocals. Whereas with my own stuff, I'm just like, all right, I did that. Now I got to do the next thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess also with your solo stuff, the hardest part is the first part of the project, whatever that session is getting the idea that's worth seeing through. And I'm sure you go through all the bad ideas that get 20-second song in and never see the light of day.
Yeah.
It must be relieving to have the other guys kind of taking on that load for you. So you just get the idea and it's like, shit, fire, let's go.
Yeah. Then you can just write off there. Mm-hmm. You don't even got to get the spark. It's like, the spark's there. I just got to kindle it into a fire.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Reflecting on past music experiences. So, you mentioned you've been doing solo stuff for a while. You've got other band experience I'm aware of. I guess, the first question to start with is, what are your past band experiences? What else have you been involved with?
So first, how far back do we want to go?
I guess I'm just, were you in a band at 4 years old? Did you get into local bands in high school and then it kind of...
Yeah, my first kind of experience being in a band, I was probably 13, 14. Me and a couple friends that I knew just got together and played like Enter Shikari, Asking Alexandria songs. We didn't write anything, we were just kind of fucking around with covers that we liked. We didn't play anywhere. It was just a good excuse to hang with the boys and play some music. But that band kind of showed me that you need someone to write stuff, like kind of set the spark under my ass to be like, learn how to write stuff, because we would be trying to write stuff and it would be like, no one knew what to do. We were a bunch of kids. We were like, I don't know, we can just play a breakdown over and over.
Cover bands are so fascinating to me because at the early stages, they are the best way to get crowd engagement, reception. They're the best way to generate views. Like, I think we all know a local band where the most viewed thing they have is a cover of something else, and that's, I think, unfortunate for most people. I think they would rather be identified with the thing that they poured their heart and soul into.
It's really a give and a take with that because you get that feedback from people because they know it, unlike your stuff. But then you can get caught in the cycle of you have to be that band, and it's like, nah.
That's the problem. That's then. You put out your original music, and there's no audience for it because no one's there for that. They're there because they like that you're curating the best parts of the top 40 and putting that into metal for them.
Yeah.
And then you put out that solo stuff, and there's nothing. And it's interesting that as a kid, as a 13-year-old, you're able to have that kind of insight because I think it's so. It's such a sexy and easy thing to fall into of you will get responses and there's plenty of songs to be covered. It's not like that's unsustainable.
Yeah. And a lot of them you might like better than your own shit you're writing.
Probably.
Especially at first when you're writing some garbage ass songs. It's real easy to be like, that Attack song hits. Let me just do that instead.
That's interesting. And like you said, it's such an easy trap to fall into because there is so much gold there in a sense. And you could just be a bar cover band. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that if you just like the performance and the lifestyle and you're not necessarily interested in the creative part. But as the flip side, it's interesting that at 13, you were like, no, I need to be not just performing, but performing stuff that I am proud of, that I am intrinsically interested in.
Yeah. I just always kind of had that drive. I just wanted to write music. Before I even played guitar, I was fucking around on little I remember Guitar Hero on the later ones. They had the write your own song thing, and it was awful. You couldn't do anything with it. Terrible. But I was so infatuated with that idea. I would fuck with it for hours, and I'd be like, this all sucks, whatever.
That's funny.
But I always wanted to. Even before I played guitar, I was like, I want to be writing. I want to be creating. I want to be doing something, you know?
Interesting. Yeah. I think a lot of people learned from Guitar Hero. I think like generationally that spawned like or maybe not a spawn, but enabled a whole generation of musicians to see it out. And it's, an interesting one because it's like someone made that to make money. Like it had nothing to do with creating musicians.
No,
it was just
not at all.
Some company, whoever the developer was, saying, dude, I think we can sell this. And it turned out to be like really positive.
Probably the best thing for musicians in like the past 20 years.
Yeah.
More than any singular guitarist or band or song. You know, you've got like the 80s with your Guitar Heroes, your Slashes inspiring everyone. Yeah. Then you get to like 2005 and it's like, nah, just Guitar Hero.
It's really interesting. Yeah. That it's not like a Slash is a noble hero to follow. Of like I don't know anything about him, but my assumption is that he did it the hard way and did it the way a lot of people did, where he came up playing small shows and got better and then eventually became Slash that we know. And it's interesting that at a certain point that just becomes the computer almost. Of like, this
literally.
thing just gave me the hit of adrenaline, hit of dopamine of playing this to the buttons on the screen, and that's like, okay, how do I get the next tier of this fix?
Yeah, and I to this day, if I have a day off of work, I'll sit in front of my computer, I'll pull up a tab, and I'll spend an hour just playing along with it, and it's the same as Guitar Hero. It's not because I'm actually playing guitar, but like it's the same concept. You see the notes go on screen and you follow along with them. Like it's the same fucking thing. It's fun. I like that shit.
Yeah. Like I said, it's fascinating to me that a toy ended up spawning so much like genuine creativity that is, I don't know if Bring Me the Horizon, but like for sure someone up there, whether it's Billie Eilish, Post Malone, like I don't know who the person is, but for sure someone who is massively influencing culture started just because they were playing a video game as a kid.
I know for a fact that Counterpart's current drummer got his start doing like the Guitar Hero 100% expert drum things.
Damn, yeah.
He had a YouTube channel just doing that back in the day, and then he got to real drums, and now he's in Counterparts.
Hell yeah.
But like that's probably the biggest example I can think of where I know for a fact that Guitar Hero has come back around and influenced culture, because I know they've influenced countless bands at this point. So
yeah. Damn. The reason I bring up the early days is also because I know you're a man of good stories. I know you've lived a lot of adventures in your day. And I'm curious about, talk to me. There's got to be a house show at 14 years old that is worth remembering, or a stage dive at something at 16 years old.
Yeah.
Does anything stand out? Is anything coming to brain from the glory years of learning how to be in a band and learning how to tour, learning how to play shows, learning how to... Yeah.
So this is like one of my most embarrassing moments.
Hell yeah.
Because I was like 15, 16.
Hell yeah.
I love Era. I've seen them more times than any other band out there. I've seen them like 25, 26 times. I've seen them a lot.
That's cool. It also makes sense in terms of influence of your musical style. Yeah.
So I love Jesse Cash. Hybrid or Solo was one of my favorite things back in the day. I'm seeing him live at the Palladium. And I'm crowd surfing up when he's playing the solo because I'm like, fuck yeah. They drop me right into him at like the peak of the solo. Like when he's trying to go the hardest, I just come slamming into him, knock him over, fuck up the whole solo. It was one of the most embarrassing moments. And it was so embarrassing, I couldn't leave without like explaining myself and being like, I'm sorry. So I was like the last person in the venue. And I found him and I was like, bro, like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, bro, you have no control over it. The crowd just pushes you. But I was a little kid. I was mortified. And he ended up talking to me. It was right after their other guitarist had left. And he was a little salty at the moment. So we just ended up talking. And he was like venting about it for like an hour because I was the last guy there. And I had wanted to talk to him about some shit. So...
What a wild turn of events where you go up to him saying, dude, I'm so sorry. And he's just grateful to have someone to talk to. Just being on the road.
Someone that cares about the band. Someone that's not just like, oh, that song was sick. Someone that's actually talking about like content, you know?
And I'm sure you're a music theory guy. Like you're asking good questions. You're not just like, oh, cool shirt or whatever the entry level comment
when
is.
This guitarist dispute thing that we were talking about was going down, the other guitarists, and they're all good now, so I don't want to make it sound like there's any beef between them bringing up old shit.
It's so hard. Band breakups come here all the time, and to me, it's like in a breakup, it's almost like a romantic breakup. Like both people think the other person's wrong, and oftentimes both people are wrong to some degree. And also oftentimes after a year or two, both people don't care about it anymore. And it's this kind of weird, touchy thing that it's like, I never want to be like, so what happened? But it's also like, dude, let's talk. Like what happened is important. It is relevant, and it is good for other people to hear. Like, why did this band end? And how do I make sure my band doesn't suffer that same fate?
The same fate,
So, it's a weird, touchy subject there.
Yeah. But he had released like a list of the songs that he had written and was like, if you like these songs, like you're not gonna like Era anymore because these are the me ones or whatever. So we were just sitting there talking about like actual breakdowns of songs. It was like, oh yeah, he said like this one, and he was like, oh well, I wrote this section, and you know what I mean? We were just having a good conversation about writing stuff, and it all started because I was mortified that I ruined his night. You know,
That's so funny. And at 15 or 16, that must be a golden conversation of wealth.
Yeah.
You mentioned kind of on the tour how you have like a bad first show or an okay first show, great second show, and it's like that ability to see what it could be is worth something.
Yeah.
And to at 15, 16 to kind of get to talk to Jesse and also appreciate that he's human, right? I think that's the other piece is that you're
especially at that age. I was still kind of at the age where you're like looking up to people, and like at that point it was like, oh, that's just the dude. It's just some guy. Like,
yeah,
he's just mad about his guitarist talking shit online. Like, that's just like me.
Yep.
Like,
It's funny. Yeah. Yeah, it is. And it is so valuable to then like also be able to see yourself in that and identify with it and believe that it's possible.
Yeah.
I think, it's been an interesting part for me as I chat through people and kind of realize, and it's like, who are the people who showed me that this was an option? Because I don't think it always was. I think at some point it was your high school music teacher who said, hey, you could go to music school, and then you kind of go and again, you would have found your way otherwise, but
it helps you find your way. You know,
Definitely.
Maybe it would have been 5 years later if I hadn't gotten that push, you know?
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. What else we got here? New NEHS scene stuff. So we got shows coming up. We got the shows coming up this weekend. And then I know towards the end of the month, later in the month, we got another run of shows coming up. So you guys are traveling like the whole month of June here.
Pretty much. My job hates it. They're very upset with me.
They'll forgive you. They'll forgive you.
They will.
Hell yeah, dude. What's the most, where are you most excited to go? There's lots of places coming up. Is there one that stands out as a show that's most interesting or a cool venue or some shit?
I'm excited to headline. We got a couple headlining dates and we haven't done that yet. So some of the places we're doing are not like super sick places, but like if we're on top of the bill for that one, I'm really excited for that show. It's one thing playing like 5-6 songs for people, but I'm excited to break out. I think we're doing 10 for the headlines. I'm excited to play longer. I always feel like when I get off stage, I'm like, I just got into my groove. Like,
interesting. Talk to me about the changes from going from the, I guess, supporting set to the headlining set. So I know there's like increase of responsibility is always the interesting one to me of like suddenly you guys are the ones who are responsible for getting people there and keeping them there.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the increase of set length is an interesting variable that I hadn't quite thought about either.
There's a lot of things you got to think more about. For me, what's most important is you got to think more about the show. Like, we're trying to do a couple things with it that are a little more fun, a little more showy, a little more stage presence-y. And they aren't things that we had ever really thought of for littler sets. It gives you the opportunity to try out some new things. We're playing an intro breakdown type thing just to get people hyped up that I wrote. So it'll be the first thing that I kind of fully wrote that we're playing live.
Yeah.
So I'm stoked for that. I think that's going to be like every set, though. I don't think we're just doing that on the headliners.
I think the intro breakdown is a really good idea. I think as I've kind of gotten into video, it's also gotten me into marketing. Like I've had to think not just about what am I making, but how does this...
How are people going to receive what I'm making?
Right. How do I make sure that the most people receive it or make it the most enticing for people to receive? And it's interesting in the context of a live show to think it is a very similar thing. It's not necessarily an online audience, but there is that intro breakdown is an interesting versus coming on stage and saying, hi, we're NEHS scene. It's like cut to the chase.
I came up with the idea of it because we would play shows, and until we hit a point where Caleb was like, throw down, this is your moment, people would stand still. And then Caleb kind of pushes people to do it, and they do it. So I was like, what if we just start with something that pushes them to do it, and you can just tell them to hit their friends right off grip?
That's cool, yeah.
So it really came from how would audiences react best to this show?
I assume it's also a good excuse to bring kind of Caleb on stage, and it gives the four of you guys, or three of you guys to come on stage and play, 30 seconds, a minute of a breakdown, and then he gets to come on stage and, be the highlighting act of that, and bang, we're already off and running.
We already talked about it and everything. We're going to have him, we're calling it the Big Dick Walk-Up.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hell yeah, dude.
We're playing the breakdown, and he just comes up like, what's up, bitches?
Hell yeah, dude. My favorite example of this has been similar to the way you're kind of describing that is I work with a production company, and I've mentioned this a little bit on here, that works with like the fall and spring concerts at colleges.
Yeah.
So I'm at a lot of different schools, and the guy who runs that is a really interesting and just like a really smart guy. And it's really interesting to talk to him about like logistics of production and of events, because he's thought about concerts in details that I've like in layers of detail that I've never thought of. And one of the ones that has always stuck out to me is at a lot of shows they give out like the glow sticks. They're like 2 feet long, and you wave them around. And obviously they look cool, and for me as a video guy, like it makes my life so easy.
Makes the video look sick.
Everything looks cool, and so I kind of assumed that was it. Is you give people a souvenir, and it looks cool. We both parties kind of win. And he explained to me one time that it's like, no, it's not just about looking cool. It's that once I put this thing in your hand goes up. And once your hand goes up, you're having fun.
You're engaged more than,
yeah. And it's like a cheat code almost. And it's like, it is a souvenir. It does look like those things are also true, but it also is a way, kind of like you mentioned, of how do you break that first, before the first engagement point, right? Before the first breakdown in your scenario. And this is normally like DJ shows. So yeah, I guess also breakdown, but very, very different.
Very different breakdown, but it's the same concept.
I guess, yeah.
Drops, breakdowns, it's all the same shit.
And so it's interesting to think of like, how do you what is the cheat code almost to engagement before you actually are engaged? And yeah, it's interesting to think
Catch us handing out glow sticks now.
Dude, there you go. You heard it here first. That's metalcore money at its finest.
Metalcore money, glow sticks.
That's so funny. Hell yeah, dude. We were on a good thread there, and I'm totally drawing a blank at the moment. But it's all good. We got the upcoming shows. We got the van that is all set to go. Dude, what else is coming up for you guys? Anything else? I know we're in the process of writing stuff. I assume there's music in the works if there is a single coming out, but I don't know if we can talk about anything quite yet.
We have some songs done. We're going to be trying to release singles fairly recently. We're at about the halfway point on the album. I think we have like 9 of 12 is the aim instrumentals done, and 4-ish on vocals done. So we're about halfway. I don't really know when we're going to release the next single. We don't really have any immediate plans for it right now. It's just push Omen and finish the album. Probably when we get finished with everything, we'll decide what the next single is and drop that. So,
what is the ideal amount of singles for you? So, if let's say the album is 10 or 12 songs, how many singles is it to where's that peak between building hype and sharing too much of the album?
I think it depends what you have on the album.
Okay.
If you have 12 songs on the album that all sound the same, you probably can get away with releasing more singles, because you don't want people digesting 12 of the same song all at once. You know what I mean? It could help you to have some of them they already know.
I thought you were going the opposite way. That's interesting.
It's weird to think about, because it can have the opposite effect where you don't want to let people know you have as much of the same shit. But then it's like, you might as well not even release the album at that point. If you're not confident enough in that same shit, like just can that shit and write another one.
That's always been a very weird conversation to me. Is like, how do you pick what the single is? Because by saying these are our 3 best, you're also saying these are our 7 worst. Yeah. And at some point, it's like, are we just pushing these songs to the back burner? And at what point is the back burner like the garbage?
So yeah. So I think actually it's not good to look at singles as best and worst. I don't think you should release your best song as the single. I don't think you should release your worst song as the single. I think you should think of them as a showcase of what you have to offer on the album. My ideal single rotation, so we did Omen. That's a fairly standard NEHS song. You know, it's got melody, it's got heaviness, it's got technicality, it's got a little bit of everything going on.
Sounds like what we would hope to hear from NEHS.
Yeah. I would ideally, if it was just me making these decisions, obviously it's not, so it might not go this way, but then I would say do a particularly heavy single, something that's on the heavy end of the album, something particularly melodic that's on the more melodic end of the album, and then probably a 4th single, but save that for when the album's out. You know, release date, drop another music video, and have that be kind of the one you push once the album's out. So I would say 4, and I would do 2 kind of standard expected ones, and then 2 that are kind of out there, the reaches of your sound.
That's interesting. I think if I were in a band that I'm not, and I have no experience in one, so I think to some degree I don't have the trial and error experience there, but I think I would have said that you would release the singles that are the most middle of the road to kind of try and please the most people. And it's interesting that you're kind of saying like, no, try and cast the net as wide as you can and catch all the people. But I'm sure that's a bit interesting. Like, I'm sure every band has their own secret sauce there and their own kind of war room, so to speak, of planning and strategizing and figuring out how that works. Interesting.
I think it also depends what size band you are. You know, we're a smaller band. We're not like some currents or nothing. You know what I mean? When you're currents, you kind of do want to attract the most people with them. But when you're in our position, especially with a new guitarist, with kind of a new reinvention of the band with a new album, I personally would really like to show people what we're capable of with the singles. I think if we're talking 5-6 years down the road, then yeah, you release the singles with the catchiest melodies and you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But right now, I think it would be a better move to kind of stick our nuts out and show them what we got.
It's interesting to imagine, that changes, that it's not just again, I would have said that there's probably a game plan that is objectively best, and what you're saying is like, no, there's a best version for us and a best version for the currents and probably another tier for the Bring Me the Horizons of the world.
I think Bring Me the Horizon right now, I think their best bet is to go wild and diverse and all over the board. You know, I think we're at that point. I think Currents is at a point where they should be safer with their singles. Then you get to Bring Me, and it's like, nah, Bring Me should just do some crazy shit.
That's interesting. Yeah, it is ultimately about generating clicks and generating attention.
Because everyone's going to listen to Bring Me. They don't need to have a song to pull people in and be like, everyone will like this. Everyone's going to check it out. So just do some crazy shit. Wow people. Give someone something to put some buzz on Twitter or something, you know?
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, the common marketing trope is that it's all about starting a conversation. And as long as you're doing that, then mission accomplished. And yeah, it makes sense that for NEHS scene, the conversation is most influenced when it is like, yes, thank you, this is what we wanted from you. And with Bring Me, the conversation is most stoked when it's, I can't believe that they just dropped.
I can't believe
blah,
they
blah,
did
blah.
this.
Yeah, interesting, my guy. The marketing side of this is one of those that I'm generally unaware of, or was unaware of, or uninterested in, and now it's slowly like, oh, I've really got to. Yeah, there's a lot of value in being more aware of this and more in tune to it.
Definitely. It's difficult because there's a balance between, like, you don't want to let that influence you too much, you know? You don't want to write an album that's 12 lead singles just because that's what's easiest to market in your position. But, it's a balance between that, what's easy to market and what's going to really get you going yourself.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah, my guy. We're right around our perfect hour mark. I think that's about all I wanted to chat with you about. Is there anything else we should have chatted about? My last note. My last note here. Thinking in my head and realizing I should talk with my mouth instead of having dead air happening here. My last note here is regarding the show. So this is episode 23. The goal here, when I started the episodes, I've always had 3 numeric places, which was my way of willing myself to do 100 episodes at some point, which to me seems like a cool number. And I did the math and realized that is like January 1st of 2025 is 100 episodes. So it's like a year from now, mine is like 3 weeks. So at some point I'll miss a week, but this is me verbally being like, fucking whatever, 77 more of these.
77 more.
77 more of these at least. And we'll go from there. So that's been exciting to look forward to. But as we look forward for NEHS and for Jake Miller, where can people find you? What else is coming up? We got tours coming up. I guess first, where do people find you online? What do they look for if they would like to hear more of you?
My username on pretty much everything is just JMills, JMILL, 4 Z's.
Hell yeah. The band is
just NEHS Scene on everything. I have another page for Allurement. That's just Allurement Band. They're kind of on the back burner right now because I'm focused on NEHS. But yeah, we've got lots of dates. We're going to be planning some more stuff once we're off these runs. Trying to go everywhere we can. That's really what's most important. Get the album done, go everywhere we can. Once that's done, I'm going to be back on the Allurement trying to finish that stuff. So.
Hell yeah. That's mostly your solo project?
Yeah, that's just me. I do the drums, I do the vocals, I do the guitars, I do the bass. Sean has some input doing production and stuff, but that's my lane 100%.
Interesting. Fuck the intro, or fuck the outro. Is that overwhelming, or is that an exciting amount of freedom to you?
Both. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming, like especially because I can do vocals, but I'm not a vocalist first and foremost. So I'm at the point now with that where I've got instrumentally the EP's done, 4 songs are done vocally, and I've got like 2 more songs to write vocally. And it's like a concept EP, so I'm trying to like weave ideas from this and that into it. And so it's very daunting right now, but it's exciting generally that I can take it wherever I want. I can do whatever I want. There's no one to be like, that doesn't sound like us, because it's just me. I sound like whatever I want to sound like.
And of course, inversely, you get to take more risks because you're not like, if this goes bad, then Lucas, Caleb, and Sam are also affected. It's like, no, this doesn't go great. Who cares?
If I want to do a 5-minute guitar solo, I'll do a 5-minute guitar solo. Fuck them.
Interesting. I'm very curious to hear that. I'm curious to hear that come together. Hell yeah. So people should look for No ISC tour throughout the Northeast-ish area.
Hopefully more than the Northeast. Hopefully we'll be pushing a little further come late this year, early next year. But we'll see. That's hopeful.
Hell yeah, dude. Omen music video out now. Go follow No ISC and go follow Jake Miller. Hell yeah, boys. Thank you. This has been a broadcast.